While people want to judge the drug addicts, it is like people who are judging the homelessness. There is good purpose and lessons for them to have experiencing this. It is not cancer to the soul. That is a judgment call. Those people are there in your lives for lessons. And it's hard. They're very hard lessons, not just for the addict, but also for the people that are affecting and seeing the addict. This is all for you to connect to each other and heal each other. The drug, while it is taking the person out into a different reality to heal their pain, actually needs more connections with people. You all use vices, regardless of whether it's distraction of the internet, your phones, your connections with family and friends. You're using distractions all the time. Do not judge someone for their usage of the drugs as such, because it's just merely a distraction, which you are all guilty of. You distract yourselves with the food. You distract yourselves with so much. And so while we understand it is heartbreaking to see a true drug addict who looks like they have got cancer of the soul, this is really lessons for you. And this is lessons also for the addict. But you have to understand what is the life purpose, what is the purpose in general, and what are the lessons you both need to grow from. This is not going to be we can't give you a one-fit-all answer here, because of course there are some people who have gone off purpose and who have resorted to the drugs because it is just simply too hard. Will they be punished for it? No. Will they learn from their lessons and choices? Yes. And will all the people supporting the drug addict also learn from their choices and lessons? Yes. It is very hard challenges, but this lifetime is for hard lessons. This is the end of the lifetimes as you know it on this planet, and therefore it is all very concentrated. It is all very hard because you're purging a lot of your old past karmas. You're also purging a lot of your current lessons in your lives that you have been hoarding and not processing. And so therefore we say to you, have heart, have compassion, and have consideration for others before wanting to label them as people who will not ascend. There's people who are drug addicts and this is their life purpose and this is exactly what they wanted to learn and experience of potentially for your growth. And so remembering that things have to be seen from the bigger mindsets to be able to understand these things will help you tremendously. And while the person who has asked that question has no malice in their hearts for the drug choices that people use, it is coming from a place of making sure that they aren't going to be sent to hell, shall we say. You all are using certain things, whether it is alcohol, gossip, fear. You all use certain things and have certain emotions to distract yourselves. And that is okay. Of course, we would like you to be aware of your own addictions, not so you can judge yourselves, but to see if it works for you still, to see if you're getting growth from that. And this is our answer for that question. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Just to expand on that a little bit, if it's so destroying in the current lifetime, and it's basically a disconnection from the pain of living the life they're in, you seem to be saying that it's the reconnection is where the hope lies in regard to recognizing, like a healing avenue during their addiction battles. Does that sound right?
There are some people that will lower their vibration so much because of their drug addiction, because they're taken off path, that they will not ascend. People who are, say for example, using a lighter drug, if you wish, to say of marijuana, that is not what we would consider devil's work, shall we say. That is an assistance to people who want to be able to take the pressure off their highly overactive minds, and they're so high vibrational beings that they actually need to have, in quotation marks, the high to actually lower and just numb a little bit of their overactive minds because they're so busy. And so we do not know if this is your exact question follow-up that you have, because we want to be able to explain and talk about everyone who's listening and all of their drug choices and their addiction choices. Everyone is doing what they can to try and heal themselves. And you're using all of your vices to heal and soothe and numb and to try and cope. The harder drugs are the more trickier ones because they can.
I seem to have lost a bit of audio there somewhere.
Okay. The higher drugs can advance people's mindsets, but they can also do some negative to the body because the body is not designed for that information and that state. And also, like everything you're consuming, there is other chemicals and compounds that aren't necessarily good for your pure, shall we say, highs. So there is a lot for us to unpack about that. The intent is that everyone is on their own journey, and however people are trying to process and navigate through cannot be judged by others. And you can all awaken and you can all support each other with compassion and love.
Wonderful, thank you for that. I'm just moving to another question from Barb. There's a few of these questions around the shift and ascension. Barb wants to know, will there be other shifts after the big shift in December, if December is still the timeline, for those that did not shift to the new earth? And then part of that is Jack's asking, he's curious about preceding events or announcements before the big shift in December. Thank you, if you could reply to that.
Certainly. So when the last big shift happens in December, that will be the final move off to the planet to go to the new earth. That's where beings will go and move, and that will be the last removal of the evacuation of the beings on earth.
Wonderful.
The people who stay on the old earth, they will have to naturally, in quotation marks, die to then ascend somewhere else to then be reincarnated. And so there will be shifts after the last final big shift in December, but it will be not shifting to new earth in the bodies you have now. It will be shifting, going back to source, reincarnating with a new life purpose and with a new life contract. And you can choose to go onto new earth if that is where your best destination will be, or you will go somewhere else. So therefore, the other shifts after December, if you have still stayed on the earth, you will need to have another reincarnation to go off earth. These shifts beforehand, before December, people who are dying now, they are most likely ascending. They are not technically dying. You will see their carbon-based bodies, which will look dead. However, they have simply merged beyond with their carbon-based bodies, and they are either waiting on ships to be able to greet their families, to be able to physically state to the families, this is what is happening. And they will explain and have physical proof to their families who are in great disbelief of what is about to occur and what has been happening.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Jack was sort of asking about preceding events or announcements prior to the big final shift in December. I guess that's just asking, you know, what can we look out for so that we know things are starting to roll out?
So depending on what groups you follow, there will be smaller names for the events that are happening, the awakening, the rapture, end of days. There's a lot of names that are being referred to by the shift and what is happening in December. And so a lot of groups are holding on to these labels and these terms with their beliefs of what they believe is going to happen, and that is okay. It is preparing people for the shift, nonetheless, that they actually understand what the next step is going to be, because it's so tremendous. It is a big mind trip, shall we say, but it's also a physical trip. So we find it amusing, because we know that a lot of people are telling each other it is just a state of mind. 5D is merely just a state of mind, and it is not. We've already discussed this, but the people who are listening to these sessions now are the more aware, the more attuned, and you cannot push someone into the bigger mindsets of what's about to happen when they're not ready for it. So this is just confirmation for you, so you can do your own inner work. There will be no TV channel station that will be broadcasting this shifting off the earth. There will not be actual understanding or comprehension of going to the new earth and what will happen to the old earth. There will be not excuse me, there will not be big broadcasts of this. There will be the smaller groups that will be able to share the information together, but there will not be any formal information. The question is the person who is asking the question is actually asking another question. They are actually asking about the information of wanting to know disclosures for crimes against humanity, because he thinks that is going to be the shift, the conscious shift. Once everyone finds out the truth, then the conscious shift will change and everyone will be on the physical plane, having a bigger mindset and understanding that, in quotation marks, the earth is rid and has been freed of the crimes against humanity and the deep dark state players who have been plaguing humanity for so long with their own agenda. We believe that is the question he was referring to.
Okay, thank you for that. That makes sense. I guess leading on from that question really is the whole, you know, catastrophes leading up to that big shift. That's another kind of train of thought in regard to what's going to happen. Those precursors, that preceding events that people are also sort of looking to see as leading up to that shift off the planet. People are suggesting asteroids and those kinds of catastrophes. And are these orchestrated by negative beings or orchestrated by natural means? So is this Gaia, Mother Earth, basically doing her final shift across too?
Yes, the natural disasters will be the shifting of Gaia, but there also will be some smaller earthquakes that will impact people, and specifically we're wanting to say the lower of the Australia, because that will be, in quotation marks, the negative beings detonating their weaponry as their final farewell, because that is their last big port of call, shall we say, and that is their last stronghold, and they are fighting. They are under threat right now, and they will surrender, but by their own choices. So they will self-destruct, and that will trigger earthquakes, and that will shift the land mass, which is above these bunkers, shall we say. and so that will flood that city. Please remember that we are all aware of this and we are watching all. And so when people are worried about the larger dams, the larger earthquakes and the larger volcanoes, we are all covering this. And when people in quotation marks look like they have died, they've merely ascended. We have their crystalline bodies here with us safely, and we're all slowly starting to evacuate the planet. It doesn't happen all at one go because there's just too many of you. And so we're doing these smaller shifts. We're collecting these larger groups of beings, numbers of beings, shall we say, and we're taking you all on board our ships. And it is systematic, it is very orderly, it is very pre-organized, and we have placements for who, when, why, and how. And so while it's not your turn to shift, you will hear about and know about other groups and locations that have shifted. And there is larger purposes for that, and that will be fine. You're all shifting. We don't want you to think that this is a mass death onslaught. If that was going to be your fate, you would be left on the old earth. And it's not the case for the people listening to these messages. They are aware of the situation. They have risen their own vibrations enough to be able to keep hearing these messages from us. So regardless of whether you have your own sessions to hear exactly what's going to be happening to you on this shift, we can say to you, you are already doing exactly what you need to be doing, and you already know you have been you already have been evolving emotionally and physically the last year. You know this is you tuning into more information here. The people who are listening to these messages are the ones that are more curious and want to know the exact details of things.
Wonderful, thank you for clarifying that. Along those lines, a question from Local First Hibiscus Coast around Project Bluebeam, the faked alien invasion that's been planned for years. Are they planning their own show, or how do we know if it's them or a hologram from the Starlinks?
Whether it is real or fake, the results need to be the same. If we expose ourselves to you and your community and your town set, is wanting the beings, the people who are still stuck, the people who are still refusing to understand there's something bigger happening here. And this is their last sort of slap in the face, shall we say. The last physical wake up, notice something's happening here, go within and start asking the bigger questions, because so many people are so asleep but not even aware of their environments around them. We would never harm you. We would never do anything to hurt you. And while you may have heard of abductions, those were life contracts, and we had permission to come and do this, and that is fine. And it is for a greater purpose. It is not what we're here for now. We're here now to evacuate you before this planet self-destructs. Yes, it will appear that there is an asteroid that will come down, but it is energy, and there's a lot of other things that are happening to her to be able to help her reincarnate. And so, regardless of whether it is a fake illusion of aliens or whether it is aliens and their ships, the purpose still remains the same. We are aware that there are some fake wannabes, shall we say, that are trying to control and scare you still. But what is about to unfold and be discussed and shown to you in many other formats will be so shocking that even the alien invasion, by that stage, you won't even raise an eyebrow, because you're aware. You are all aware. Again, it is no coincidence that you're listening to these messages from us. We have been helping you and guiding you for so long to be able to navigate emotionally through this. And you have been upgrading yourself each time you listen to our messages. And so therefore, there may be a small attempt to fake an invasion, but it will not make much difference. You're all protected. If this is your life purpose, to die in a fake invasion, it will be so. You have to ask yourself and find out why and what's the purpose there. Remember, nothing happens to you that you have not agreed to. Your higher self and your subconscious and you have all got a plan. So please trust, please do not worry, please do not feel vulnerable, please do not feel like you're going to be begotten. Just know that everything now that happens is all to help awaken people to the bigger truths. And while the bigger truth seems more crazy than the constant lies you've been told, it's still the truth nonetheless.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I guess carrying on from that with the whole UFO theme is Paul was asking kind of along similar lines around the UFO phenomenon expected in the skies. What would that look like? Is it just going to be from the light? Or, you know, will there be both phenomena, deep state, but we just talked about the fake invasions, and seeing those UFOs, is that purely, you know, like you said, to take us off the planet or to provoke? It's provoking, like you said, the last wake up call, really, to realize what's going on in respect to the whole shift. Yes,
so there will be ships when your vibration at that point in time, and it's going to be November, because constantly your vibrations and your energy and your frequencies are rising to be able to ascend. So you be able to potentially have visuals of these ships when you raise your higher vibrations. So please do not think because you can see the ships means that you're low vibration and you need to be woken up. There's also two benefits for this. Yes, people will need to see the ships to be able to be shocked and to be able to go within, and they will be fearful at the start, absolutely, and that's going to trigger them to go within. The other people are going to see the ships as a reward to being the genuine ships, to be able to know that their vibration is so high and they're so open and they have no fear, that they can see the ships themselves. And you mostly have, if you've been wondering, if you think that there are ships behind clouds, it is because the ships are behind the clouds. They, you aren't able to see them, you can just see the clouds. They are the clouds. It is something you are not able to see as such yet, but you can get a sense there's something more than those clouds. Those clouds seem very strange. I don't know if I've ever seen those clouds before. And that formation, you'll say to yourselves, those are the clouds we're speaking about. And so they've been here for a very long time, and they are lowering and lowering and lowering their own locations to be able to acclimatize themselves to this very dense planet. And so they're trying to get in touch with you and get themselves lower, and you are getting your vibration up higher. And the people who need the ships to ascend them to the new planet, the new Earth, or simply to have transport to go home. It is happening. It is happening. And so it is exciting. And for some of you who have been hoping for this for so long, this will be confirmation that you've always needed. Deep down, you know all of this is true. However, it is still hard for you to unpack and comprehend in your realities. And that is fine. We're not judging you for that, and we understand that. But for the people who may be listening and still worried about aliens, we've always been here, we've been here before you. And so if we could have, and if we ever had the intent to have done any harm to you, we would have done this a long, long, long time ago before your ancestors came out of caves, shall we say. And we're not trying to mock you here, but know your placement on this planet. You human beings believe that you're the more superior ones. You think you're more superior than the animals that are on this planet who are highly evolved. So we say this with love and we don't try to condescend you, but if you've still got the mindset of aliens are bad, we could have been bad to you a long time ago, and we haven't. We've been here to help you and assist you and love you and support you the best ways we can. So we say this with love.
Thank you. Just carrying on from that, Nick has a question. I think you've answered most of his other question around UFOs appearing to whom. He's also asking, you know, is it possible, will they be landing to come and say hi, or will this happen sort of another way in respect to taking people off the planet?
So we would like to say we have landed, only when we have crashed, when our vehicles have had serious maintenance and we've needed to be grounded. And that's unfortunate because we don't like to do that. We don't like to touch your surface. It is very low density for us and it is not good. And we want to add in humor here and sort of say the low density energy there on the planet is like shit on our shoes. And we don't want shit on our shoes, and we don't want to drag shit into our ships, shall we say. And we want to add humor because we know that our messages lack humor, and we know that our subject matters are very serious and can feel very overwhelming. And so therefore, we're not trying to condescend you again and your planet, but the low density is not good for us. And so we would prefer not to touch at all. And when we have come down, we have hovered over the surfaces. We do not want to touch the earth. It's not because we're afraid of it. It is because we just simply do not, we can't. We don't want to. It is like our energies and your planet energies are like magnets, shall we say, but they're not magnets. It is just an analogy. So we will not be landing and collecting you. We will be transporting you up through beams. We will be sucking you up, shall we say. Most of you will not be aware of it. Majority will be asleep when the shift happens. Majority will experience some light-headed dizziness and some disorientation, a little bit of anxiety because you don't quite know what happens, and then you'll just see a bright light. The bright light is us, it's not God, even though some of us prefer to say that we are your creators, and that's another story for another time.
Thank you, wonderful. Another question, this is one from Amy, it's very specific. In Washington and probably more places, they are completely coating the sky with chemtrails at the moment. Amy's assuming that's to keep the smoke in and direct it further away to create more fear. What can we do to counter this?
It is sweet to think that you humans can do things to help. We are aware of what has been happening and the poisons that have been laid down on your planet. We also have countermeasured, while we don't agree with this approach to put the chemtrails on the planet because it is poisoning her and essentially poisoning you. We also know that Gaia is leaving and she has already made her final choices in this. And so while it's discomforting to you because we understand that the smoke is not good, it is also distracting you from getting on with your ordinary days. We tried to lock you down with the lockdown so you could go within, and the certain people in certain areas need more time out. Shall we say, to go still within. It's, shall we say, this more stubborn states, the more stubborn countries that kind of need more time to notice actually what's going on. And this is not the case for all, so please do not jump on us when we try to talk about big general conversations here. So you know within yourselves if you've done enough inner work, but we're trying to be general here. The poisoning has never been good, and we've never appreciated what humans are doing to the planet, let alone to each other. However, you still have free will to do certain things, and this is part of the reasons why we have to evacuate you, and your planet has decided to reincarnate. There is many things that you were not even aware about that is being poisoning you and distracting you in one form or another. So unfortunately, while these things are taking a place, there is a higher purpose here as well, which you can all learn from. And so while we will not interfere with that, just trust that we are protecting you from the bigger threats. And you know how to pure your water with your good intent of love. We have tried to help you with releasing the emotions. So of all the frustrations and the injustices. So please know we are aware of this, and we are doing the best we can. And we know that the question asked from us today has come from a pure heart, and they want to help humanity deeply. And when they know that this is happening, this is hurting their emotions and their worry and concern. And so we're sending all people who are worried about the planet much love, trust that we understand our roles here to help, but it has got too far out of hand. And no one person here is responsible. While we're all part of this, we are all partly responsible. But you mostly, the humans, are mostly unaware of the greatest extent of what's been happening. And so we understand there is no true blame here.
Fantastic. Around all of that, I guess this is a really good question too, as Rachel was asking from her, are we in a protective holding space now? She feels there's many of us that are frozen in time and space because we're meant for something coming up. And if so, I guess what are we waiting for? I guess that's part of the shift. And what can we do now?
If you feel like you're in that waiting, pregnant pause, yes, absolutely, we understand. You are put into a protective place. A lot of you have been locked down, as we say, to keep you safe from all the dramas that are out there, from all the negative people who are wanting to buy into the drama of it. And the blessing that you have all experienced with the lockdowns has been taken away from the dramas, the people who are loving the drama of it all. And so you've been isolated from other people who are lower mindsets. So you've had just that breath, that's that time to just gather your own thoughts and actually be allowed to think for yourselves for a bit and ask the bigger questions. While it started off being the virus, what on earth, what on goodness earth, oh gosh, I don't want to die from this virus, this looks very scary. Suddenly you're starting to think about your mortality, suddenly you're thinking about your vulnerability and what really counts for this lifetime. And while there are some that have been a bit shut away from humanity before the shift, before the virus, you've all been able to have some self-reflection since the lockdown and just pondering life, pondering the world, and pondering the situation. So yes, you are on a pause now. Your closest friends and family who are not necessarily good for your inner work, shall we say, have been kind of politely distanced from you. and you're noticing the connections with your closer friends a little bit less close as you're allowing your time to have this space. And so for the people who don't want to do the inner work, this may feel hard for them because they may feel slightly rejected and alone, and that's good too, because you can see then they have to start actually doing their own inner work. And so this pausing space is an important one. We understand for the people who are like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Mentality, we understand that patience is not necessarily one of the virtues of the human beings, and we understand the challenges of that. However, please just consider that there's still a lot of people that need to wake up, and a lot of people need to still use this valuable time. So yes, you are on a pause because of the shift. And so well done. If you're bored and wondering what on earth are we doing here now, you're ahead of the game. And so use this time to pat yourselves on the back and also make sure there is no other little shadows that are creeping in there that need to also be released. You are able to release your shadows much faster than you ever have before. So this is the perfect rainy day. This is the perfect situation to be able to unpack that and make sure there is nothing else left in your spiritual closet, shall we say.
Wonderful, that's fantastic to hear. I guess around that whole family side of things with regard to the shift, there's a question here from Aquariusum. Will our current children still be our children to take care of and nurture on New Earth if they come with us? And will age still be a factor? Because there was talk about children teaching the adults that shift across. And then, of course, there's a question alongside that is about kind of that whole heaven on earth animals coming across too. Will they be a danger to us? Or will we actually be, living in harmony, as the Bible says, where the lion lies beside the lamb and all that kind of thing?
Yes, the new earth is going to be the harmonious earth where everyone gets along and is very balanced and equal, and there is no threats that will come to you there. It is very pure and harmonious and balanced beyond your wildest imaginations, and that's what's the beauty of the new earth, is that it is so incredibly balanced and just harmonious, and we can't even describe it to you in words because these words are so lackluster compared to the experiences that you will feel on the new earth, because it is so pure. Animals will shift with you if this is their life purpose and intent and what you've agreed on, and children will shift with you if this is part of your life contracts together to fulfill and to move together and explore the new earth together. Regardless of whether you are 1 or 101, your souls potentially are the same age. And so while we are so restricted in our physical bodies in this lifetime, on this planet, it is going to be shifted around and changed somewhat on the new earth. And so while your children may still look younger, they're going to be more wiser, and they're going to be able to speak their true minds and have their true wisdom. It's going to be astonishing that the most wisest beings on that new earth will be the youngest looking ones potentially. And so do not judge on age. Do not judge on any physicalness. We all know in this lifetime, but we still do judgments. And so you are going to explore and grow, and it's going to be marvelous because you'll feel marvelous and you'll feel so in harmony. And we can't express any more than that, but it is well worth the waiting and the pausing and all the drama that you're currently going to experience.
Wonderful, thank you for that. Part of that is a question around again, a Querison is asking, their family wants to undertake a huge task of planting masses of foods and gardens and things, which requires a lot of energy over the next few months. Is that necessary, or will they be shifting before a food shortage? How can they tell that?
Those people that want to go back to Earth, they're the ones that will be ascending to New Earth, the new skill sets that they're trying to ascertain for themselves here and now, is because they're itching to start their own lives on the new Earth, even though they don't know it as such. They are the true pioneers of knowing how to grow and raise land properly and propagate plants, and their true soul essences are calling through them to this lifetime now, as they know the shift is about to take place. And so they are collectively tapping back to all of the lifetimes that they have experienced growing off the land and living off the land. There will not be any food shortages for people who are ascending. There will be food shortages for the people who stay on the old Earth. The destruction that will be happening on the old Earth will be tremendous, and therefore there will be food shortages, there will be power cut outages, there will be a lot of carnage and chaos. And so those are going to be the harder lessons for those beings. And so spending time on your garden now, if it brings you joy because you're out in the fresh, you're touching the soil and you're putting hopes and seeds in the garden because you want to have the beautiful fruition and grow the beautiful things from your hard work. That is part of your excitement, regardless of whether they know it or not, what their hopes and dreams are for the new Earth and what they're experiencing, what they're going to experience very soon. Potentially you don't know what's going to be happening to your land masses as the shifts take place and after the shift. And so therefore potentially your gardens may not survive after the shift and while all of the things take place. The time that you may have with your family to grow and to plant and to sow the seeds may be the time you need to have with them to connect with them more. While you know it will be fruitless, the connections that you make when you work together and get excited about the future could be exactly what your family needs to connect together more profoundly. This is a hard one for us to share, because we know that your families, when you do have the connection with your families, the worry of having families go with each other is on most people's minds, especially the family members that seem to be stuck in fear, or the family members who refuse to understand anything you're trying to share with them. It is hard. Remember, your biggest purpose and mission right now is to get yourself ready. And you're responsible for one, you're responsible for you, and it is not selfish. But trying to help people who are refusing to budge will be distracting you, and you can only afford to have that distraction and that waste of energy if you have completely done all of your own inner work. So it's your judgment call. Don't be distracted by helping others when you have been neglecting yourselves. There is a lot to unpack here. We understand that people are afraid that they will go starving. We understand that we are afraid that people will separate from families. Please trust everything will unfold exactly as it should. And we are protecting you, and we are watching you, and not just us, the greater beings that are here watching and observing the earth, but you've also got your spirit guides, your own spiritual teams that are watching there and have always been there for you. Remember, you have got things called guardian angels. If this is a comfortable label that you have, those guardian angels are technically your guides, your spirit guides to help you. They are the ones that are nudging you gently and pushing you and sometimes dragging you into the right direction. And we say this with love because they're always trying to help you. They're always trying to keep you on your own life contract that you signed. And they pledged to you they would help you. And they're trying their best always to help and support you keep your own words to yourself so you can learn the right things you want to experience in this lifetime. And so we know it's a hard thing to be able to understand. We promise when you pass over, you will be able to see it from the bigger picture. Remember, nothing's happening to you that you haven't wanted yourself. And when you're walking off the wrong path, you will be firmly pushed back if that's what needs to happen. After the shift, there will be many blackouts. So there will be a lot of issues if you're left on Earth. The blackouts that they are questioning, from what we could hear in the question, was about the days of darkness. And the information that is going to be shared. Is that the correct question?
Yes.
Okay, so the days of darkness really reflect on the emotional heaviness that people will be experiencing when they learn the truth. The truth is going to be shared soon with the confessions of the crimes against humanity. And so this will be shared and broadcast on your main TVs, while there will be usage of internet. There's going to be so much disconnect from people because we want to swamp you with the information that has been provided. A lot of people need this drastic information to be shared so they can start waking up and start questioning how much they have been told is lies, how much they have been told is true, and what really on goodness earth has been happening. And it has got so out of hand. And there has been a lot of people that have been getting away with a lot. And so this is now time for them to be rounded up and to be able to explain to humanity what they've been doing with themselves and why they've found themselves in a very sore state. They will be very regretful. They will be really remorseful. And there will be some tearjerkers to see them suddenly realize that they have been responsible and a part of something that is so heinous that even the most prepared person understanding and expecting to see this broadcast will still be in shock. It is not going to please anyone. It is going to sadden all. And while people feel like they want justice, the fact that these crimes even happened will suddenly dawn on the people who want the justice. The witch hunt, shall we say, is justified. But don't forget the crimes. Don't forget where they have come from. And so while you're finally glad that these criminals have admitted to themselves and to you what they've done, it's going to impact you all emotionally. And we've been telling you for a while to keep your emotions strong and not wavered. It will test you. You will explore all emotions that you don't think you think you may have resolved. It is going to be a lot. It is going to shock. We're reading the room, shall we say, and there's going to be a lot of people that didn't want to believe that the crimes against humanity were this bad. There will be people listening who already know, but it's still going to be very surreal the day when they start watching the news, shall we say. But it won't be news. It won't be broadcasted on any channels that you've seen before. And it will be on your TV screens or your devices, but it will be a different broadcast. It will be the proof that most need. But remember, the information is so shocking, it will make people physically sick. It will make people lose sleep. It will just shaken. And while we don't want this to happen, really, because We're afraid that people will get triggered too much if they haven't done their own inner work, if they've had child abuse in their own history.